Fuck me if that wasn't how Liam Smith looked last night. Beefy. Apparently did get a little beefy in between fights, having to knock off 46 pounds, looking like scum, getting dropped in the fourth, and then finished off in the 10th by Chris Eubank Jr., putting more combinations together, looking more athletic, better at the weight for sure this go around. We have a question in the queue relating to that. We'll get to that in a few. But honestly, Rob, it was a surprise for most of us. It once again went to stoppage. I told everyone they're crazy that thinking it was going to go to points, and I was right. Just on the wrong side of the aisle on that one. But you got to give it to Eubank Jr. there. Limited Smith this time or not. Career best performance for him.
Yeah, no, I actually had a few quid on it. I did a Maddie, I did a parlay. I had money on the KO and I had money on the KO inside 6. So the fucker let me down because he could have taken him out.
You had to be screaming in the fourth, man. You had to be screaming at it.
I said to the lads in the
He was
chat, "You
close to
went
raging.
KO
He was
inside
fucking
6." They thought I
raging.
was messing, but we obviously heard the whispers about Smith and his preparation, and at the same time, while I don't want to hear Smith's excuses, I didn't want to hear Eubank's excuses, and I thought he was selling it maybe about the elbow, but I did think the main factor contributing to Eubank's performance in the last fight was the fact that he crashed away to fight Conor Benn previously, and then they made the Smith fight as a replacement. So he essentially had two camps, and one of them he absolutely killed himself at. And that the fact that he was, doing the imitation Roy Jones style, it doesn't suit his style of boxing. So the long and short of it, I think Chris Eubank, for once in his career, we looked at him, he forgot his pain against Golovkin. He fucking paraded around Brighton with his IBO belts and that, and he was a bit of a prat. But
still chasing Golovkin for belts he doesn't have.
Yeah, but in the recent past, the kid hasn't really done anything wrong. Like, he didn't fail the fucking drugs test. Conor Benn did, you know what I mean? And he made weight as a clean athlete allegedly. So he was tested the same. He didn't pop for anything. He took his defeat against Liam Smith and he came back to ride it. And, maybe Liam Smith was off, but at the same time, I thought the body work from Eubank was brilliant. I thought the combination punches from him were sharp. I thought we'd never seen a jab like that from Eubank before. So maybe in a short time, BoMac deserves a lot of credit as well. The only criticism I'd have of his performance, I thought he was a little bit too tentative. Maybe he was scared of getting caught. I thought Smith's only marginal moments of success in the fight were all kind of dirty. He was hitting behind the head and, kind of dropping the elbow a few times there himself, but he was struggling to stay in the fight. And I think Eubank could have taken him out to win me more money, but at least he covered me bets with the KO. So, credit to Eubank for once. I guess on the pod we're giving him absolute pelters over the years, but you have to give credit where credit's due. Smith may have been depleted or whatever, but he did what he had to do, and he looked very good doing it. So credit to Eubank.
Yeah, and even trouble making weight and everything. Smith, I mean, he still was trying at the end. He got up. He just wasn't there. Whatever that he had wanted to have. Clearly, he left in the first fight. Got a question relating to this. Let's see here. Was it from Steve? Was it from Matt or Danny regarding trainer?
I think Danny's was the trainer one, Matty.
Yeah. No. Oh, wait. Nope. Yep. Okay. So Danny Young asking, maybe a question for the pod, Steven. Why the fuck has Eubank not boxed like that up to this point? I get that he has a new trainer and Smith might be injured, etc., but he looks so comfortable off the jab instead of throwing those silly overloaded punches. Yes, Steve. I'll tell you what, BoMac, he's definitely got a shout for trainer of the year at this point in time. I don't think a trainer can change everything, but I do think he has a very good gym going, very good sparring, and he seems like a good tactician. Work with what you have there. I'm not saying that was a Terrence Crawford performance, but you could say that he was definitely gleaning something off of the great one and what he might have seen in the gym.
Yep, completely agree. I saw this question coming in last night and I'd formulated a few thoughts around it as well. Similar to what Rob mentioned, really. Just back to basics for Eubank. That's exactly what he needed to do. Just keep it simple. I'm not sure if it's completely down to BoMac, but we'll wait and see. Say that it is for now. He's obviously improved him, or he's just bought and added an added layer of simplicity to the whole thing. Rather than imitating Roy Jones Jr., he's gone back to output, getting that jab going, getting the uppercuts going, trusting his engine. Very much early Eubank when we saw the Channel 5 kind of career and then onto ITV with the pay-per-views, just grinding away at opponents. He's not a big puncher above European level. And the imitations of Roy Jones standing off, trying to pick one punch at a time, as Rob said many times, there's only one Roy Jones and you can't imitate that. This reminded me at times, although I thought he might have got Smith away a little bit sooner, but he was rightfully reluctant after what happened in the first fight. I think if this had been the first fight and we hadn't have seen him get knocked out, I think he would have gone for it a lot earlier rather than being so reticent. But as I said, it reminded me of the Yildirim display, just firing away at times with relentless aggression, catching opponents in a sandstorm. That's what Eubank does best, I think. So if there's a body there to be beaten, get rid of it. It took him a little bit longer than necessary, but ultimately Smith is a very experienced fighter. I wasn't really looking forward to this show last week, as I mentioned. It lived down to my expectations. I think it's tough when a fighter goes out on an injury. I know that he fought on bravely, not questioning his heart. What condition he came in physically, mentally, with the weight and everything is a different matter. But it's disappointing when we see a fighter develop an injury in real time. For me, 99 times out of 100 then, the fight is as good as dead. The only intrigue is to whether he can last the distance, show his toughness, show his heart, or produce an absolute miracle. In this case, we were just watching this guy just, as Bunsey says, slowly dying in front of us round after round. And the only intrigue around the fight was, when was he going to get stopped? When was he going to get hurt? When was the referee or the corner or the doctor going to jump in and put this to bed? It's like in football when somebody gets sent off. The game dies at a time. You thought, flip me, there's 11 against 10 people now. It's not quite as intriguing. So the only thing that kept me going in this fight was whether Smith could see it out to the final 12 rounds. And when it's a pay-per-view main event like that, that is a bit of a dampener. Sorry, Matty, don't just kill the whole thing off?
No, I forgot to hit a button that was in my hand, so
Easy done.
Yeah, failure on that account there. So Mr. Matt Butters, or Steve, should I say, former Prediction League leader, Matt Butters.
Yep, slippery butters.
Tell you what, it's Matt. It's the struggle of being a Matt. We're always destined to fail there, Mr. Butters. So, but along lines with that, there, Andy, Mr. Butters says, I've seen a lot of posts calling for BoMac to be training after the trainer of the year after Crawford and now Eubank's big wins. But how much of Eubank's performance can we attribute to BoMac's influence? It seemed to me a combination of Smith's flat performance plus the return to Eubank's old fast combination punching that won him the match rather than any particular instruction BoMac gave him in the corner. Granted, it's impossible to know everything him and Eubank worked on together in camp. Yeah, I want to give BoMac some credit here, Andy, but let me throw a little wrench in the gears here because everyone was saying they didn't like how, oddly enough, going back to hashtag calves on this one, they didn't like the way that Smith's legs looked. His ankle came out from under him. He was a little bit thicker in the calves. Well, here's something that people don't understand. Well, if you're fat and you're putting on that weight after your normal build, man, Andy, homeboy was, carrying 50 pounds of weight around on his calves, building up those muscles for that period of time. And also can definitely contribute to a back injury. It's not good on your spine, especially getting into your 30s to be carrying around that lump. So I don't know. I'm in a weird place, honestly, Andy. I want to give BoMac some credit for a turnaround performance, but I'm almost hesitant to give Smith much credit for the first fight or Eubank credit for the second fight, because I think they both might have been weight struggles in their own way. I think Eubank had to kind of work his way back down to middleweight. I don't think that was necessarily a very easy feat for him.
But also he was having to drain himself to make the catch weight for Benn, and as you say, he went through some charade. Remember actually going through with the second day weigh-in as well, so he'd actually even delayed putting that weight back on by 24 hours. It was just
and he was in camp for probably 3 or 4 months straight when all that happened too. I mean, he just kind of beat the shit from everything.
Yeah, I can't remember the turnaround for the Smith fight after that, but you say he's probably. I mean, Eubank doesn't put on a lot of weight between fights and stuff. I mean, I just think with Smith, 14 stone he's went up to. I mean, 200 pounds. That's by his claim anyway. That's how big he got.
I think on the first point, Andy, sorry, just to mention, wasn't it October they were supposed to fight Benn and Eubank, and then he fought Smith in the January of this year?
Right.
So it was pretty quick, and like you said, he went through the whole charade of the
It's
training
just,
camp as well.
I don't think it did him any favours, to be fair. You say, so I mentioned it last week about the potential Eubank, being drenched slightly. Ozzy had mentioned, I forget how far back, 3-4 weeks ago he was on last on the podcast. He mentioned it was to Danny Flexen at the time. Actually, he said he would be surprised if the fight had went ahead, and the fault or the situation, the blame would be on Liam Smith's side. It seems to have now come to light that there certainly was a problem of some sorts. Whether it's an injury, whether he's gagged the weight, but look, he's got a job to do at the end of the day, and that's make the weight. And it feels like people who've paid for it have been jobbed over as well. No excuses. He said that himself to Eubank from the first fight. I think he even had a go at Anthony Fowler as well about potential weight issues or whatever it was, because he had to come down so much weight. But at the same time, I think part of it, to me, okay, you got to give BoMac a wee bit of credit in that as well. He's took the lead, but it's down to Eubank at the end of the day to try and make those changes. And I thought for the first couple of rounds it was going to be one of those boring, jab, grab, get dirty on the inside and rabbit punches and that type of thing. I did think Eubank had a couple of issues where he could have complained to the referee about punches behind the head. I think Smith definitely wasn't getting any kind of trade shot, kind of like left hooks off to the body. None of that was happening for him. I just don't think he had any answers in that after the third round knockdown, because I did say to the guys in the WhatsApp chat that after the first knockdown, it then appeared clear to me that the legs just weren't there, and then obviously, we know what we know now and that. But I just think that right on in the fight after that third round knockdown, the legs did look a bit different. And then for there, I just think Eubank was patient, picked his moments, and then the old Eubank kind of came out a little bit. But he started to let the hands go and more flurries, and you seen that Smith was trying to kind of like roll off the ropes and trying, I suppose maybe a lesser referee might have stopped the fight actually in that as well, because Smith wasn't really throwing back, but he was trying to slip a lot of shots. But yeah, fair play to Eubank. I don't think many people gave him much a chance. I know many of us didn't give him much chance last week, but he's come back, done it pretty well. And look, at the end of the day, he's done his job. He's made the weight properly. He's come in there, changed his whole outlook. So supposedly changed his team round a bit, and he's put the game plan right into place. And okay, look, Smith may be injured, but how often do we hear fighters? Carol Froch, always mention that fighters never enter the ring fully fit because they've went through a 12-week camp trying to make weight. There's always something lingering. Illness here or there, that wee cough, etc. Struggles to make the weight, bad night's sleep. We've heard it all. So it's one of those things. Injuries happen during fights. They happen before fights. So it's just the way it is. So fair play to Eubank. I'm not a big lover of calling it Golovkin at this point. 42-year-old Golovkin at this point. But that's just kind of Eubank's career, isn't it? He's calling out or he's faced the kind of faded vets who were ex-world champions or top fighters, a la Groves, De Gale, Abraham type of fighters. And that, you know what I'm talking about. So this is just another one. But Eddie clout chasing as well. Conor Benn right after the fight. So clearly they're all after it. Everybody seems to think it's somehow a bigger fight. More money. Absolutely, they would go absolutely massive, as Eddie would say. Only problem is young Conor Hen isn't licensed yet. So
I think he's saying Ben will be absolutely massive, Andy, if they fight. Coming in at 285.
I tell you what, he's cocky. If that was me at 160, him at 160. This is Conor Benn who was struggling at 140, man. He's going to go up and kill people at 160. Oh, as Frank would say, do me a favour.
What a world we live in. Some of this shit you wouldn't believe if you didn't see it firsthand, right? I'll tell you what, though, trying to figure out which fight on this card to move into after that. But actually, let's hang in here real quick on these two before I jump. What are you thinking next for Eubank Jr. and Smith? Are they headed to a rematch next? Or is there demand for that? Does either fighter want it? Smith kind of looked in bad shape. That's kind of a curiosity in myself as far as how long or if he goes on in the sport. But what do you see next for him, Andy, potentially?
Eubank, as I mentioned, he'll probably try and call out a fairy fighter. Along those lines, I seen Kala really excited there last night. Looked like his drug dealer just arrived in the arena. He was going absolutely potty. Smith, I just don't know if he's hurt still in the sport. I did forget to mention as well about the state of that referee there last night, giving Smith all that time to recover. That was deplorable. That should have been called out immediately. He should have been back in that fight within seconds. No fucking, like, almost nearly a minute. Just want to mention that. But Smith, he'll probably try and get the third fight, mate. But as I says, after how it's went down, he's after that being on pay-per-view, I don't think the appetite's there, mate. I mean, there's no belts on the line. I think the only reason, I don't know if it was a rematch clause in the last fight, just purely because of how the last fight ended, you could understand maybe, okay, we could run it back, but Smith done nothing there last night, mate. Absolutely nothing. I'm not wanting to see it. And as for who he would fight in a comeback and that, again, is he going to fight at 54 or at 60? I imagine it will be at 60. But yeah, I'm not really fussed about Liam Smith going forward. And Eubank for that matter as well, actually. But
Steve, what are your hunches on where either guy goes next? Where are you leaning?
Well, this is going to be great analysis and podcasting as usual for me, but I'm not really sure, to be honest, where he's going to go next. I've mentioned before about Eubank. His career almost seems to be on the periphery of what's going on with everybody else. And I suppose why not? He has the name, he has the pulling power. He's not necessarily the most skillful in the world, but he gets these opportunities. Fighting Liam Smith a couple of times on pay-per-view kind of fits in. Going and fighting Conor Benn fits in. Getting Kell Brook out of retirement, it's sort of that whole circus element fits in as well. Golovkin, the fact he mentioned him, we all laugh, but he might fight Golovkin in a fight or two. Because again, it's a name against name. He's been his career all day. Like, we can call for him to fight the likes of Janabek if he gets past Gualtieri. We could call for him to fight the likes of Erislandy Lara, but he doesn't seem to be ever mixing with the kind of current elite, quote unquote, because they're not all elite. You know, there's some poor fighters at the top of the middleweight division at the moment. He never seems to be mixing with them. The closest he came was when he went over to the PBC that time. And we thought, oh, here we go. He's going to be nailed on to fight Charlo at some point. And he fought Korobov, who's sellotaped together at this point. Got the win by virtue of Korobov pulling out after a second round. And then next thing you know, he's come back to the UK, and then I think he was fighting DeGale, wasn't he? A completely shot version of DeGale, again, a name, but a past it name. Like, he's always on the periphery. The IBO title, he's fighting Arthur Abraham, a name, but a past it name. He never quite gets into that mix. And why should he, I suppose, if he's getting paid well to fight these guys? So long story short, yeah, your Benns, your Brooks, your Golovkins, that just fits in with the Eubank career trajectory. And those are the names that they'll look to sell on Sky for his next fight.
Well, this is it is a sad state of affairs at middleweight, and Eubank might as well stay there. Not to jump too far ahead in the future, Steve, but in 6 weeks' time, roughly, we're going to have one of the most awful middleweight unifications in the history of middleweight unifications, when Janabek Alimhanallah takes on Vincenzo Gualtieri. We're all looking forward to that one. And why not have that one at the Fort Bend Community Center in Rosenberg, Texas? Just a brief little blurb.
They're fucking making that fight, eh? Fucking hell, man.
Could be at the Butto Shields Community Center. And the little blurb there says, Fort Bend Seniors is committed to helping seniors in Fort Bend and Waller counties remain independent. So it might be at the Senior Center in Rosenberg, Texas. The Fort Bend Event Center.
They clearly smell blood with that guy, because he only won the belt about two months ago. Like Gualtieri.
Right in with an offer, weren't they? Wasn't it Falcao Gualtieri beat for the title? I didn't see that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. He stuck that out. I need to go back and check out that fight and see if he has anything to give to Alimhanallah.
Alim Honolulu is going to be one of the most underwhelming unified champions of the current era, isn't he? Like, going through Danny Dignam, going life and death with Denzel Bentley.
Of the times.
Stephen Butler, and now he's unifying belts.
Rob Brandt, he fucking beat up in the shell of Hassan Nadam Njika, remember him?
Oh yeah, him as well, yeah.
Loves to get knocked down.
If you remember, the beginning of Golovkin's title reign was none too impressive either. So
yeah, but he was blatantly ducked though.
Yeah.
He did get blatantly ducked.
There were people there, they just wouldn't fight him. There's no one at the moment. Middleweight, one of the traditional quality divisions, has been sort of, well, in recent years, 154 has been where the action's at, really, hasn't it, comparatively speaking?
Well, yeah, it's just and there's got to be people that are willing to fight for that title. It's just middleweight is kind of vacant of talent, and it's all spread out. Whatever does exist. So, but good on him for getting this unification on that's coming your way in
Yeah.
October. Hooray for everybody involved there. Now back to the aforementioned card we were discussing. I'll tell you what I thought was very interesting. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to a lot was going on there, Steve, but Rob mentioned he had a parlay. I had one too. I had just two picks in there. One of them was for Eubank versus Smith to not go the distance. But the first one I had to get off of my ledger was the over-under in Fraser Clarke versus Dave Allen. And it was 6.5 rounds.
Oof.
So as those low blows were raining in the 6th round, I felt like I might have a chance. But then Dave Allen went back to his corner. I'm like, shit, might just lose this one. But it's almost as if Fat Dave Allen had bet on the under because he just stopped in the middle, in between rounds of 6 and 7
Hey,
there.
you might not be far off there, Matty. You could be closer to the truth than you're thinking. I'm sure Dave Allen probably had a round in his head. That's all I'm saying. Sorry, carry on.
Hey, be it to his own gambling or be it to the nut shots that were given to him by Big Fraser Clarke, I would like to thank Dave Allen for not coming out for the 7th round and helping me win a few bucks there in what might have otherwise been a terrible day, given the Heffron versus Cullen outcome.
I love that knockout by
me.
Heffron got knocked. He got knocked down twice with one punch.
Was it Tony Tubbs that happened to him? Or was it Burbick? Definitely, he went down about 3 times, didn't he?
Yeah, he wasn't quite sure that he was okay. He went for it, and he's like, no, that was a bad plan. I tell you what, I mean, for guys that didn't, not a lot of stoppages on their records, that was kind of unexpected early there. But I fucking God, Cullen just looked like he was 2 weight classes above Heffron. The size difference was substantial. Yeah, any thoughts on that one, Steve?
Yes, Heffron, kind of seen him growing up as a pro, really, because he signed with Gary Hyde early on in his career when he was about 18. They made vague reference to it on the commentary last night about him fighting in all these places. Andy will know, Gary Hyde, he's a good guy, Gary, but he doesn't have any promotional deals or anything, and his fighters turn up, here, there, and everywhere. Spain, Azerbaijan, Malta, the arse end of nowhere. He signs these guys, doesn't really know what to do with them. Same with Mark Heffron. It was a handy amateur. His brother Ronnie was actually a very good amateur as well. Didn't quite make it as a pro. Mark was always a puncher early on. He didn't fight very often. Well, in the ring anyway. Had discipline issues again, as they alluded to last night. But he's kind of, I don't know, he's found his way. He's lost his way. He's gone back to Joe Gallagher. He's a decent enough boxer, but he's always been a bit of an aggressive puncher. But he can be vulnerable. We were there that night when he fought on the Frampton Warrington undercard and got his ears boxed off by Liam Williams. He's moved up through the weights to try and find some consistency. The power hasn't really travelled up with him. And as you mentioned there, Jack Cullen is one of these sort of guys who's just kept plugging away. It reminds me of Prince Aaron. And if anybody remembers him, I know Dave Lee does, of gangly middleweight. Yep, from back in the day, fought John Duddy. He's 29 now, Cullen. I remember him. I love a Nice reference, as you all know. I remember him fighting in 2018 in the National Stadium in Dublin. They had a tournament called Last Man Standing. It was a bit like a prize fighter thing, and he beat Nick Quigley, Chris Blaney, the Ginger Ninja, and got stopped in the final by Roy Sheehan. It was a very good amateur and didn't really do anything as a pro in the end. I don't think his heart was in it. But anyway, back then you would have thought, well, fair enough, Cullen has kind of found his level, but since then he's worked his way up again. Fought Felix Cash, got stopped, didn't stop him, didn't stop him from progressing, that is. Had the split draw with Chelly. In his last fight, he got annihilated by Diego Pacheco. I think it was the body shots that did for him. We know Pacheco is going to be a talent who's going to move on to greater things. And then he's come back, hasn't stopped. He's got the British and Commonwealth title with a win over Heffron. So, yep, fair play to Cullen. Talking about Podrick McCrory, I think, was calling him out, or there was a discussion about that. Maybe fighting in December. I think Mick Conlon's coming back in the Odyssey in Belfast in December. They're talking about putting Tyrone McKenna, Lewis Crocker on the undercard. And maybe the turnaround could see Cullen against McCrory. If that can be made, I don't know. I'm just sort of throwing it off the top of my head. But
well, he certainly didn't have to exert himself very much last night.
So he used the jab very well. was impressed by the way he worked it over. And he's a fighter who's learned by experience. Ozzy always goes on about going the traditional routes, learning your craft. You can't write guys off after a couple of losses. He has 4 losses and a draw, but at this kind of level, he's not going to be a world beater. But at this kind of level, he has the experience to sort of hang in with people. So, yeah, absolutely fair play to him. What was the other fights that you were mentioning there, Matty? Sorry, was I to comment on something?
Fraser Clarke and his near DQ against Dave Allen.
Okay,
just before awful,
Dave
man.
Allen clearly on the fucking Big John diet.
Just before I mention that, Florian Marku, not really sure what they're doing with him. Sells a lot of tickets. He's exciting. Talks a lot of trash. There's a fighter there that can do. There's a potential for them to do something with him. But he seems to be. I don't know. I don't see him as much as we should. I think Dylan Moran, 18-1, knew he was going to get blasted. Thought he'd lasted about 2 or 3 rounds. To be honest, his record is against people who no hopers. Really, I didn't think he had a chance in that one. And as for Fraser Clarke, just before I shut up quickly, going in against Dave Allen, I said it in the Nutters group last night, Matty. Slow, ponderous, coming in overweight, and Dave Allen doesn't look too great either. That was the best quip that I could come up with that one. But I tell you what, the best thing about the night was, and I've cut it here for Andy so he can have a listen, and all the boys and girls at home and in the chat can have a listen as well. Fraser Clarke wasn't too hot in the ring, but he was firing some blows after the ring on the interview against old Ron Lyle. So I've got it here. Let's have a listen what was going down.
What's next for you? There's a host of names. Dennis Hobson making his thoughts known there, calling for a rematch. You've got the likes of Wardley, Adley, and Jamie TKV who's in studio tonight for us.
Yeah, Dennis Hobson's over here like a fake dull boy trying to spin a deal. He wants some more rematch. Probably robbed Dave his whole career and probably looking to do it again, so I can understand that. But he won't be getting a rematch, and I'll be moving on.
Yeah, apologies for 1 or 2 of those comments there.
Wonder if Dennis has got the lawyer. I bet he's on to Frank Warren. He's like your lawyer, Frank.
Those are the hardest shots Fraser Clarke threw all night, Andy. I thought.
Thank you very much.
Who was that one Lyle guy that keep talking about or mentioning me?
That's what they call Hobson, isn't it? Ron Lyle, I think.
Is it? I didn't know
must
that.
look like Ron Lyle.
Like, who the fuck's Ron Lyle? There's no black guy singing about there. Christ.
Well, you get punched in the head enough times,
Did he apologise, Clark? Did what they comments back or anything like that, or is it still?
I don't know. I'm just presenting public domain information by courtesy of Sky Sports. No infringement intended by the Asylum. Ben Wiseman Industries.
I speak to the Donny Baseball while you're at it.
So yeah, I'm gonna be getting those in there. I save ourselves a couple problems, I think, possibly as far as that goes. Yeah, that was I don't know. Andy, did you have anything particularly from that undercard that you liked that stood out to you in any sense?
Not really, mate, to be fair. As I mentioned to you guys last night, Fraser Clarke fight was just awful. Absolute dreadful. Jack Cullen, fair play and coming back again, knocking out Mark Heffron, as I says. It was a quality shot. Basically knocked the guy down twice with the one punch. Always good to see. I expected the Michaela Mayer fight to go the distance. Didn't really watch it. I didn't catch anything else. I maybe caught.
I gotta watch everything she does.
Yeah, I didn't see Lauren Price. And the Adam Azim fight, mate, to be fair, I kind of tuned out to it after about 4 rounds because at this point I was knackered and I'm like, fucking Sky is still when they put the main event on. That was a chief support. What time did that come on at, Steve? 10:15 at night? I mean, the main event did come on to near 11, so...
At 11:05, the main event
started.
It
was pretty ridiculous, yeah.
I don't know enough by that point. What are they doing?
Yeah.
Like, they need to stop that shit, man. I remember, I've said it before, but I remember Brian Peters used to say on RTE, he used to try and get the main events on about 9:30, 9:45. Old bastards like us are falling asleep on the couch by that point. Nobody's sitting and watching 11:15 main events.
I think they're getting a cut from nearby hotels or something like that for doing it so late. I mean, it's
fucking about 10 pints deep at that point. Fucking about 10 pints deep and about 3 grams in, then they've lost all attention span to it. Though, the way anyone wanted to shadow box in the crowd or something like that, It's just too long a night. I just think, for a pay-per-view event as well, mate. I mean, how often have we been on this podcast slating pay-per-views and the quality of them? That last night, don't know how much it was, but my God, pay-per-view. I mean, talk about fleecing the fans, man. That was just awful. And it says one half of your main event can't even make the weight properly. Can't even train allegedly. So I mean,
ready to firebomb Sky offices, Andy, no?
Yeah, it should do, man. I'm outside Sky HQ tomorrow morning with Molotov cocktails. And I says, bringing up Dave Allen for Fraser Clarke, man. That experiment's over. I mean, big phrase. I mean, they harm the guy in that, mate, but come on. If the iron's hot and it needs to go now, I mean, what is he, 30, 32, I think he is? Early 30s anyway. If he's going to be anything, it's going to be now. So put him in with somebody and see how if it's sink or swim. I mean, fucking Dave Allen, man. The guy went in with Lewis Ortiz about 5 years ago.
The thing is with Fraser Clarke as well, Andy, it's a case of they're telling us one thing and our eyes are telling us another. Shalom pulled him out, was it twice, from the purse bids for the British title against Fabio Wardley. Perfect yardstick for both of them. Oh, and the reasoning was, we think he's going to go on to world level, Fraser. We have big plans for him. You winning titles. Bullshit, man. He ain't going to win no titles at world level. Talk sense. The reason why, if you can't dust up Fabio Wardley, who's a decent fighter at British level, you have no business going up to anything higher than that.
He's definitely a fighter who needs to be at the area titles at this point. I mean, I think about fight. I remember he was beating up on someone and he was no him. He was shouting at the referee to stop the fight or whatever it was. I can't mind if I've made that one up or something else I'm thinking about. But he beat guys like Bogdan Dinu, right, who had somehow magically appeared in the top 15 rankings a number of years ago. Marius Wack, who is famous for getting his, that iron jaw pounded by Vladimir Klitschko about a decade ago. Right, goes 10 rounds with him and non-inspiring performance. And you wait 3 months to drag him back out again against Dave Allen, right? Who again, he shaped me Dave Allen, but I mean, we spoke about it for years now about Dave Allen, about the opportunities he got, and oh my god, and some of the freaking opportunities he got he didn't even deserve. It's just I'm not getting it. Ozzy would be breaking down better than me because he just doesn't like Dave Allen. But
I mean, the question on everyone's mind is, what's next for Dave Allen?
I love it, Matty.
The fucking pie shop, kebabs. I don't know, mate.
He's probably going to be spending more time with Big John. He'll teach him the art of the Chinese buffet, and it's going to be good times.
A quick one, Matty, just on Adam Azim, actually, while it's in my head. He's clearly a talent. I'm not averse to him fighting guys like that Fanian or Fanman or whatever he was last night. A decent enough opponent, not really a puncher. Again, a common theme. Showed him a few different moves. You can't blast through everybody. But I wonder, I mean, I'm no matchmaker. They know a lot more than I do on these pay-per-views. Would you not be better putting the likes of that Fanian one when he's sort of headlining on his own like they did with Reyes before? And in this case, giving him like a dosser to knock out in 2 or 3 rounds to highlight on the pay-per-view, get people interested for next time, get the crowd pumped up rather than going 10 rounds, as Andrew Thickett says there, Andy, sort of stilted the atmosphere a little bit, which did build back up again for Smith Eubank, granted.
Yeah, it was pretty boring. I kind of dozed off during it, I think. I think that might have been where I kind of lost interest.
It was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon for you as well. You got no excuse.
Came up with happened. I bet they put Clarke in a big Del boy next, by the way. Imagine that.
Chisora said he's going to have 1 more fight this year, 2 more next year, and then he's going to retire.
Fuck's sake, he's still
fighting.
fighting.
That's 3 fights too late, mate.
That's a big step up,
It's
though.
about
Even
5
the
or
mush
6
version.
fights too late, but
Even the mush version of Chisora, man, that's a big step up from what we were watching last night, isn't it? Realistically.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't bet against Chisora in that one whatsoever. I mean, he could just absolutely just out experience him, everything. Yeah. So I just fairly unimpressive at the end of the day. But I don't know, maybe a couple of highlights on there.
Eventually, his business can do the shit, man.
Yeah.
Good guy though.
Fantastic guy. Wonderful. Great bunch of lads over there.